Hello everyone, Tushar this side. Today we are going to discuss what is an iterator, function and generator in Python. These concepts are very important for data scientists, business analysts and data analyst roles. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Before looking at an iterator, we will see what are iterables. Here in my first cell, I have created a list which is having 4 elements within it. So I'm going to run this first cell, and now in my second cell I'm using a for loop to iterate through each element of this list. So let us run this cell. We can see that each element within this list has been iterated. Note, list, strings, tuples, dictionaries and sets are called iterables because we can iterate over them. Now coming to iterator. In Python, an iterator is an object that allows you to iterate over iterables such as list, tuples, dictionaries and sets. A Python object is considered an iterator when it implements two special methods, that is iter and next. Let us understand the concept of iterator with simple hypothetical diagram. Here I have considered the same list which is having 4 elements in it. First I will implement iter method on it, which will give me an object. This object is my iterator object. And when I implement the next method on this iterator object, it will iterate through each element of this list. So let us implement this within our code. So I am using the same list over here. Then I am applying the iter method on this list, which will get stored in my first variable. So let us run this cell as well. Now we will see what is coming in this first variable, whether it's an object or some element of our list. So for that I'm going to use my type method. We can see that a list iterator object is getting stored in my first variable. So as per my diagram, I can implement next method to this first variable because it is storing an object. So you can see that the first element of my list is printed, which was 500. Similarly, when I apply next method on the same variable, we get the next element of our list, followed by the third element and fourth element. If I apply next method once again on my first variable, we can see we receive an error. This is because there was no fifth element in our list. That's why an error of stop iteration is thrown. Now coming to the concept of normal function in our Python. So this is my normal function and this is its body. The body is having the variable x with value 1 with a return statement. When I'm going to call this normal function, the value of this variable x will be returned. So implementing this in our code, here I have defined my normal function with the name of the function as normal f. It is having variable x with value 1, and when I'm going to call this function, the return statement will be returning the value of x. So let us run this function, and now I'm going to call my function. So you can see that the value of variable x is returned over here. So when we are calling this normal function, then the value of variable x is returned, which means that the body of function got executed. So keep this thing in mind because we are going to compare our normal function with generators on behalf of this point. Now we will see an important concept of generators in Python. Let us understand this concept with the help of a diagram. So this is my generator function, and within its body I have again included this variable x with value 1, and this time in place of return statement I have included a keyword called yield. So first I will be calling my generator function, and this time the body of generator will not be executed. We have seen that in case of normal functions, the body of function is executed whenever we call a normal function. But this is not the case with generators. So when I call my generator function, the inside of generator will not be executed. Rather, a generator object will be created. And when I call my next method on this generator object, then the body of generator will be executed. So let's implement this in our code. So I have created a generator function over here with name genf. It is having a variable x with value 1, and when this function is called, my yield keyword will return an object, not the value of our variable. So let us see how this happens. So I'm going to run my function, and when I'm going to call my function, you can see that a generator object was returned by the yield keyword. And when I implement the next method on my generator object, then the value of variable x is printed. Conclusion: generator is a function which returns an iterator known as generator object over which you can iterate. When you call the generator, the code you have written inside its body does not execute. The function only returns the generator object and then we iterate over that generator object. To make normal functions, we require a keyword called return. Similarly, to make generators, we require a keyword called yield. Note, if a function carries just one yield statement and one return statement, then it is still a generator. So here I've created a GNF function with two variables x and y. I'm going to return the value of x by using yield keyword, and I'm going to return the value of y by using return statement. So we will see whether the value of y is returned or not. So I'm going to run this function. And when I call my function, again an object will be created because I have used yield keyword over here. You can see by using type method. Again, we can see that generator object is created. And when I call my next method on this generator object, we can see that one is printed over here, which is the value of x. And when I call my next method on my iterator object, you can see we receive an error. This is because we have used a return statement over here, not yield keyword. Now instead of using next method again and again on my iterator object, we can also use for loop to print the values present inside my generator object. So within this example, I'm going to use for loop to print the values of x, y, and z. Let's run this function. And you can see that when I apply for loop on the function call of generator function, we are getting values of my variable x, y, and z on each iteration. Now let us see the difference between both return and yield to get a better picture of these keywords. Return gives a specific value once and terminates function completely, but yield gives values multiple times without terminating a function. So here I've created a normal function with two variables x and y, and I want to return both the values of x and y. Let's see whether both the values of x and y will be returned or not. I'm going to call my function. So you can see that the value of variable x is returned over here. And when I call the next method on this normal function, we will get an error because this is not a generator function as we have not used any yield keyword over here. Now I'm going to create a generator function, and this time instead of return statement, I'm going to use a yield keyword. So this yield keyword will be returning the values of three variables x, y, and z. Let's run this function. I'm going to call my function, and we know that an object will be created. So checking whether an object is created or not by using type method, we can see that a generator object is created over here. And now I can apply next method on my generator object. We can see that the value of x is returned. And when I apply next method again on my generator object, you can see that the value of y is returned. And similarly, the value of z is returned. Since we have understand the concept of generator in Python, so now it's time for exercise. So what we have to do is we have to print first 10 Fibonacci numbers with the help of generator in Python. Fibonacci sequence is a type of series where each number is the sum of the two that precede it. For example, this number 2 is sum of its two preceding numbers, which is this 1 and this 1. Similarly, the next number 3 is the sum of its two preceding numbers, which is 2 plus 1. It will give me 3. Similarly, my 5, it's sum of the last two preceding numbers that are 3 and 2. So we have to print these Fibonacci numbers by using concept of generator in Python. I will request you to pause this video and come up with your solution and then compare it with my solution. I hope you were able to print Fibonacci numbers. So I'm going to create a generator function with name Fibonacci numbers. I'm defining two variables x and y, and I'm initializing these variables with values 0 and 1. Then I'm using a for loop. I'm going to explain this in a while. And to make this generator function, I'm using yield keyword. Now I'm going to call this Fibonacci numbers generator function. And since we have to print first 10 Fibonacci numbers, that's why I'm passing the value 10 over here. This value 10 will be passed to this nums argument. And because of this range function, my for loop will iterate for 10 times. In first iteration, the value of y is 1 because we have already initialized it with 1. And then we are adding x plus y, which means 0 and 1 will be added, which will give me a total of 1. So in my first iteration, the value of x and y will be 1 comma 1. And then I am using yield keyword, which will return only the value of x. And in first iteration, since the value of x is 1, therefore 1 will be returned. Then in next iteration, since the value of both x and y were 1, so here the value of y is again 1, but this time the values of x plus y, which is 1 plus 1, will become 2. And this will be passed to these two variables x and y. So value of x is 1 and value of y is 2. And again the value of x will be returned, and since it is 1 in second iteration, so the value of 1 will be returned. Coming to the third iteration, and this time the value of y is 2 and the value of x was 1, so 1 plus 2 is 3. So the value of x will be 2 and the value of y will be 3. And since we have to return the value of x, so the value of x was 2 in third iteration, hence the third number 2 will be printed. And this happens for the next 7 more iterations, and entire Fibonacci numbers will be printed. So let us run this function. We know since this is a generator function, therefore an object will be called. Now either I can use a for loop to iterate through this entire object, or what I can do is I can apply list method to this Fibonacci numbers. And you can see that entire list of Fibonacci numbers is printed. So this is how Fibonacci numbers are printed by using the concept of generators in Python. So guys, thank you for watching my video. If you like my video, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you in next video.